the Jets again. And it has nothing to do with Sam Darnold or the fact that the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. It has to do with, once again, the Jets showing organizational ineptitude. And look no further than what's going on with the Jets and their current coaching situation than why they have systemic problems. It is, gangrene is a fungus. They can't stop it. And to me, it probably comes from the top. Now, I don't know what exactly is going on with who's making the decisions on the coaching staff, but let's use some common sense as we break it down. Now, I'm very excited about the idea of Frank Reich. As we record this early on Tuesday morning, they have not named their official coordinators yet, but the latest reports, it seems like Frank Reich is going to be the offensive coordinator and take over the offense. Okay, fine. Ekstrom was fine. It wasn't his fault that they completely sucked. They had no offensive weapons, no quarterback, all those different things. But, okay, you want to have more experienced offensive coordinator. I like it. Reich was a head coach multiple times over, so you know he's experienced. I like that pairing with Aaron Glenn, a defensive guy first, assuming that they could get that done. I think that that makes the Jets better, even if Ekstrom didn't deserve to get demoted. I still think that's a good move by the Jets. Here's where the issue comes in. Wink Martindale interviewing, amongst other guys, but Wink Martindale's a name. You know, there are certain coordinators over the years you hear, offensive, defensive, whatever it may be, that you just know that they're a stabilizing force and you can believe in them. Wink Martindale is one. When you hear, hey, the Jets are looking into getting Wink Martindale, just like we did with the Giants a couple years ago. Hey, the Giants are getting Wink Martindale. You like that. That gets you excited. A real defensive coordinator who's proven before, has had sustained success at multiple stops. Then the latest reports are that the guys who were interviewing for the Jets defensive coordinator job aren't 100% sure they want the job because Aaron Glenn may take over defensive play calling. Why? He's the head coach. Why would you want him calling the plays defensively? Now, last year they had an experienced defensive coordinator in Wilks, a failed head coach. Of course, I didn't think he got a great opportunity, but he was a failed head coach, was a successful defensive coordinator, proven commodity, and was a disaster last year. So that doesn't mean that if Glenn does take over the play calling, that it's going to fail or succeed. It doesn't mean one way or another. What it means to me is, why would he do that in year two after a disastrous year one? Like, you could not have a worse year in year one for Aaron Glenn. Rookie head coach, who doesn't have the experience, never did it before, failed miserably in New York, worst team in the league, or at least one of the worst teams in the league, second pick. Like, we know all the stuff. We don't have to rehash it with the Jets. And now you're telling me the best idea is for Glenn to take over play calling on the defense? That doesn't seem like a wise decision, especially when you could go out there and hire an experienced defensive coordinator like Wink Martindale, have Frank Reich. Imagine that supporting staff with Frank Reich on one side or wherever. If he doesn't, literally have to be on one side, he could be up in the booth, but you know what I'm talking about. Frank Reich, the offensive coordinator, great experience and success and a good resume, good veteran play caller. And Wink Martindale on the other side, same thing. Excellent resume, veteran defensive play caller, had success before. That's a strong staff around a young, inexperienced, but a guy with potential to be a solid head coach. Like, you can knock Aaron Glenn all you want, and we have. I think he's got redeeming qualities. He had to learn in his first year, and some of the, back and forth with the media, his standoffish attitude, his maybe arrogance, rub people the wrong way. And if you have that, you better back it up with some results. And obviously he didn't. So I think Glenn was humbled. But now what you have is a head coach he's doubting himself. He has to be. As confident and as arrogant as he is, he's still doubting himself because he was humbled this year. And his way, the way that he thought he was going to come in here and take over and prove everybody wrong, it didn't work. And that's just the fact. So when that happens, no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of self-doubt in there. And you're going to start to think, okay, well, do I need to do it this way? Do I need to do it that way? He went through a learning experience in year one and is trying to figure his way out of this thing. And I don't think adding defensive play calling responsibilities to him on game day is going to make that better as the head coach. I'm sure that Glenn doesn't want to do this. Now, I don't know, but I'm sure that Glenn doesn't want to do this. So who can possibly be suggesting that he take over the play calling? And I guess the appeal of that would be, well, you were great at calling plays in Detroit, so why don't you just do that here? We don't have to worry about it. Because it's a different job, it's a different animal. Aaron Glenn needs to be the head coach, the leader of this program, turning this program around. You can't put too many hats on as a head coach and think that it's going to be successful. So whoever's idea it is, and I don't know, but obviously we're alluding to one of the main problems. Like the Jets' problems predate Aaron Glenn. They predate Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. They predate Todd Bowles and Mike McCagnon. Predate Adam Gase. They predate Rex Ryan and John Idzik. Like you get the point here, right? There's one constant that's been there throughout the entirety of this. And when ownership or the front office starts to meddle, and that's what this reeks of to me, because I can't imagine. Glenn would have come out and said it last year. You know what? I'm taking over and I'm going to call the plays here. I can't imagine. And the fact that the reports are out there saying they're trying to hire these known defensive coordinators and none of them want the job because they might not be calling the plays. Like, then what do they need a defensive coordinator for? So I can't imagine Glenn is that foolish. And when you start having ownership or whoever in the organization getting involved at the higher level, I'm not talking about Muji. I think it goes above that. Some genius in the front office is probably like, hey, well, you were good at calling plays in Detroit. Why don't you do that here? Maybe we could get an interception. That's exactly what you don't want. Get the hell out of the way. You hired him to be the head coach, not the defensive coordinator. Don't overreact in 1 year. I'm not saying the changes in the coaching staff couldn't happen for the Jets, but this is ridiculous because it's now going to prevent you from getting one of the better defensive coordinators out there, whoever that may be. Specifically to me, Wink Martindale. That would be the guy that I'd want if I'm the Jets. He's got an axe to grind with the Giants, so you like that little built-in rivalry. Trying to prove himself as well. Was a proven commodity as a defensive coordinator, Baltimore Giants, everywhere he's been. Wink Martindale knows defense. And I think the exact veteran that, assuming Glenn wants to hire him. Now, I wouldn't say that you should force him on Glenn, assuming Glenn wants to hire Wink Martindale. If he doesn't, then that's a different story. And maybe that's a part of the issue here. Again, I don't know the inner workings of it. I'm just from afar trying to do the math and add this thing up. Why would the Jets, why would Aaron Glenn want to take over play calling defensively when he's got enough crap on his plate trying to figure out how they're going to navigate year two, which is basically like year one? I said the same thing with Robert Saleh, and it continues to happen with the Jets organization. Instead of what should have been year one of a regime, it was really like, Badabooms, what's the year before year one? Like, it's referred to as what? Like, I know there's BC and AC and all that stuff, but like, whatever pre-year one is, that's what last year was. It wasn't year one. It was like the prequel to year one. I don't know the proper terms.
Negative one?
Yeah, whatever. Negative. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I'm asking you. You're 22. You probably have no idea.
Yeah, there's before Glenn. I mean,
yeah, BG. Okay, no, but anyway, BG was Saleh, so that wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think it's year one, but it's really not year one. I don't know. I'm just making myself sound dumber. Now, this coming year, like last year was kind of like pre-K. Let's put it that way. Like if we're going, because I know the school systems.
Pre-tank.
They weren't tanking. Okay, so let's say last year, instead of it being first grade for Glenn and trying to build up, and then by like the fourth grade, you really start to have a team that can make the playoffs. It was like pre-K. Now, year two is really kind of year one again, where he's starting over. And this year, they should be more competitive and starting to build something. It's going to take years. So I don't understand why they would already, and Badabooms, you're a big Jet fan. We talked about this yesterday. I don't understand why they would be doing this, having Glenn potentially take over the play calling on defense, and then because of that, losing good head coaches, good defensive coordinators that could come in here and help out the head coach. Where are you at as a Jet fan here with this, Badabooms, with the whole what the hell's going on here with the Jets and their coordinators and assistant coaches situation?
Well, I'm trying to learn how to answer the question now, so I'm breaking down that question in my head, right? Where am I at with the coordinators? I think they have their guy. I think they can't get him right now because he's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. I think Glenn wants Jim Leonard, and that's why it's kind of a mess. And I also think this is a little bit of a offshoot. I don't know if this is out of my range to say. I think what Glenn has done a really good job at is keeping everything in-house. And I think the Jets beat is kind of scrambling to make something up because apparently Quinnen Williams requested a trade 3 times. Did you ever hear that, Sal?
No.
So I think that's one thing that Glenn is really good and what he learned from Parcells. I
All right, so
also
you're
think the
saying you
whole
don't believe these reports? I mean, I respect that opinion. Are you saying you don't believe that these reports are true? That was the latest report. I'm not sure who were the ones that had it. I think I saw something with Connor Hughes from SNY having it about the defensive coordinator stuff. But these are the reports that are out there. Are you saying that these reports aren't accurate?
I
You're
don't mean to
choosing
come
not
at
to
your
believe them?
colleagues there. But I think that they're scrambling to make a story because it's probably really hard to hear in this new jet building. That's what my guess is.
Right. So, look, my thing is if Glenn, I believe that there's a lot of truth to these reports or rumors, whatever you want to say. Do you want Glenn taking over the defensive play calling? Forget everything else. Do you want that as a head
No,
coach?
no,
Yeah,
no,
of
not
course
at
you
all.
don't.
That's
Of
not why
course
he was
you.
hired.
It's not why he was hired. See, this is where I think, and again, I don't know, but it just reeks of Woody Johnson. This is where I think that Woody Johnson looks at Glenn and says, well, you were a successful defensive coordinator calling plays in Detroit. Why can't you just do that here? Why don't, Aaron, you take over the defensive coordinator or a defensive play calling and go from there? And we'll have Frank Reich do the offense, you do the defense, and we're set. Maybe he looks at the Rex Ryan model, whatever. And I'm all for head coaches calling plays, generally offensive head coaches. I want them calling the plays. But even that, we're talking about Andy Reid. We're talking about Sean Payton, Sean McVay. I know others do it, but those guys do it at the best level. How many times have we seen it before where head coaches think they want to call the plays and then they realize this is too much. I have to delegate and let somebody else take over the play calling responsibilities on game day. For Glenn, a guy who's lucky to still have a job right now, you're going to put more on his plate? No, I would think you want to put less on his plate.
If you really look what we're headed for here, and I do want to kind of touch on the Woody thing real quick. I think a lot of people give Woody like more credit than he actually deserves for being in the mix. I don't think he really gets in the mix till the end of these reigns. Like I really don't think Woody cares at all until the noise gets so loud that headphones, earmuffs, earplugs can't even prevent it. The noise is so loud that it's leaking through his house, it's leaking through his private jet. I'm trying to think what it's called. I don't even know what a private jet is. I've never even seen a private jet in my life.
You know,
But I
I've
think
I've been on a couple with Francesa. Did I ever tell you that?
really
Yeah, multiple times.
the man himself.
Super Bowl trips. Well, yeah, I mean, not to brag, but it was a unique experience being on a
No,
private
definitely a
plane.
brag. You name dropped the
Well, no, I've told this story before. I never told you this, I don't think. But like being on that's what they're called, private planes. You're like, well, no, I don't know what it's called. What do you mean? What is it called? It's called a private plane. It's not figuring out BC or AC or BG, whatever, or
I mean, look at
pre-K.
me right now. I got a Timu chain. I got a Fugazi Christmas lights on me. I'm not that's not the cloth I'm cut
Looks like
from.
you might have combed your hair today as well.
Potentially comb my hair today. I
All
mean, if I
right, so
went on a private jet looking like this, I'd be sitting on the window seat. If you
all
know
right,
what I
so
mean.
finish up your thought about Woody.
I don't think Woody's as much in the weeds as people give him credit for. I think, like I said, when the noise gets loud, he comes in at the end to play cleanup crew. But like you said, where we're going with this whole Glenn thing and like, what's the best case scenario? Like, I know as a Jet fan, for me, I'd be happy with 6 wins next year, and we're kind of finding out more about this defense, and we have young players on the defense who are showing improvement and getting better. From the Jet fan perspective, the louder, the vocal majority Jet fan, if the Jets win 6 games next year, they're not going to be happy. Like I'll be happy because I'm ready to be patient. This is the darkest time for me, I would say, that I've ever seen from the Jet perspective.
I think they have to win. And I'm not saying this to be funny, like 6, 7 games minimum. Minimum that should be the expectation next year. But even aside from the actual win total, and thank you, Badabooms. We'll get back to you in a little bit. I have some other topics I want to discuss with you. The expectation should just be that they need to be competitive. Forget the win total in what is essentially de facto year one. That's what I was trying to say before, but I guess I made no sense trying to say that. Last year was technically year one, but it really wasn't because it was such a disaster. Now it could be like, okay, well, we're bringing in our players, more of our players with the draft picks and all the draft picks that they have. We kind of got our feet wet with a rookie head coach in year one and seeing what to expect. Now it should really be year one. And whatever the expectation win total wise for many people last year, that should be the new expectation this year. And if they don't win 6, 7, 8 games, something like that, then I do think the idea of moving on from Aaron Glenn should be in play here. Although I don't think you can properly evaluate a head coach and a new regime in just 2 seasons. However, if it is as bad as it was last year, next year, I don't think you really have much of a choice. Last note on the Jets before we move on, a bunch of different topics I want to get to today here on episode 8 of the Sal Licata Show podcast. You know, we talked about it yesterday with Darnold being in the Super Bowl, the Patriots again being in the Super Bowl, and just if anything, the law of like Woody's law, whatever you want to call it, if anything could go wrong for the Jet fan, it will go wrong. Where I would draw the line if I were a Jet fan is Robert Saleh. Because like we've seen Bowles, we've seen others we mentioned, even Geno Smith had success. Like if Robert Saleh wins with the Tennessee Titans, I mean, if Robert Saleh, who's maybe one of the worst head coaches the sport has seen, and fittingly, the Jets have had many of those guys, right? Kotite, Gase, Saleh. I mean, throw in Olbrich for good measure if you like. If Robert Saleh, who is one of the more overmatched coaches that we'd ever seen, can have success in Tennessee, it is clearly, like we all know it's the Jets anyway, but I never believed Sam Darnold would have success. He did. Aaron Rodgers, I never thought would fail here. He did. He's been good, even good with Pittsburgh. Like, he's not vintage Rodgers, but good with like, it's always there. Everybody's at their worst with the Jets. I don't believe Saleh is a legitimate head coach in the NFL. He seems like a nice guy, great D coordinator. Who knows who's calling the plays? If Robert Saleh, and he's going to Tennessee, which is a crappy spot anyway. If Robert Saleh has success in Tennessee, the New York Jets should fold up shop. All right. Topic number 2.